Okay. Thank you, Judy. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. I'm Anne Gambles. I'm one of the Sooner Safer Happier co-leads alongside Jolt Berend and Dean Lashana. And I'm here today to introduce Judy Rees and Steve McCann, who are running this session on making concise conversations count with clean language. Judy Rees is the co-author of the best-selling book, Clean Language, Revealing Metaphors and Opening Minds, and has taught the subject globally for more than 15 years. And as a former news journalist, she's excited by the impact of clean language approaches in interviews of all kinds. She also uses aspects of the approach in group facilitation and coaching and in designing online events and training. And Steve McCann had an interesting international career working with people in complex and hostile parts of the world before becoming deeply involved in creating practical applications for clean language within organizations. So between the two of them, they bring a wealth of experience. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this session, and I hope that you are too. And yeah, we are recording. So to make you aware of that, and this will very much be an interactive session. So yeah, please be involved, and yeah, the more you participate, the more you'll get out of it. And that's it from me, I think, for now.
Okay, so by the end of this session, so Rob, this might point towards some kind of goal-setting activity for you, judging seeing what you wrote in the chat. So by the end of this session, you will have experienced how a subtle change in the questions you ask can improve the results of your conversations. Okay, a subtle change. You may well have been doing similar or different things throughout your entire career, but we're going to just suggest something, subtle change. And a friend recently described conversations as the secret sauce of agile. Improve your conversations and you improve the work you do in helping people deliver better values, sooner, safer, happier. There you go. I did read that last bit, but it's also true. It's potentially the secret sauce in delivering all kinds of benefits. And one of the challenges we face is it's a bit of a universal, but people like to think that they're all different and they're a bit special. So quite often we'll say, oh, clean language in healthcare or clean language in agile so that everybody feels special. But the commonality of human connection can be reached through this very subtle, small change. Judy.
So that's the sort of starting point. The next place we're going to go is straight into an activity. Because we...
I overcopied. Yeah, I copied in your instructions in bold as well as the bit you asked me to copy. Never mind. It's a chat mistake.
You haven't made the mistake yet.
Oh, I haven't sent it yet. Oh. It's all right. I don't think anybody noticed.
So we're going to go to an activity, if it's okay with everybody, because we think that introducing this thing, clean language, works much more effectively if you do something using clean language and then talk about it, rather than talk about it at length and then do something. So what we'd like to do is give you an experience of you asking and being asked clean language questions using content that's relevant to you. And Steve, the bit that Steve is going to put in the chat is the bit that I could read it out, but you'll read it more quickly if it's in the chat, about what clean language is. A precision inquiry methodology.
Some people are in the back of cabs and what have you, might not be able to see the chat. So I'll quickly read it whilst you, those who can read it yourselves, those who can't. So clean language is a precision inquiry methodology, a way of finding out information and stuff from people and about people. What do they really mean? What are they really thinking? What's actually going on for them? These questions get to the information you need more quickly while ensuring that the person being asked feels both heard, understood, and I would say respected.
So that's what it is. So what are we going to do with it? What I'm going to suggest is that we do an activity that you could very easily do with the people that you work with, and you could try it out and see how it works with them. It's an activity that can have a few different purposes. It can be a warm-up to a meeting or a workshop or anything that you're doing with a group. because it gets participants chatting in pairs and asking each other questions. It helps people, second reason, it helps people to become aware of the assumptions that we all make all the time. Third thing, it gives people an experience of using 2 of the clean language questions to uncover information that someone else has, but you don't have yet. Fourth thing, it can provide a useful jumping off point for a group discussion about assumptions and about clean language. And fifth thing, it's quite straightforward and easy, and it doesn't require a lot of sophisticated equipment. But it does really require pencil and paper. So if you can find drawing and writing implements, that would make things easier. Steve, could you put the link to the activity instructions into the chat so that if people want to pick up these instructions to use with their groups, they've got them. They don't have to listen back to the recording.
It's done.
Is a pen and a post note okay?
Pen and a post-it note is perfect. I've got half a bit of paper and a pen. Whatever works.
I happen to have a pen and a post-it note. I can't believe there's anybody on this call who hasn't got pens and post-it notes coming out of every pocket on their body.
So here's what's going to happen. And Steve's going to put the instructions in the chat. And I'm going to ask Anne if she would be willing to demonstrate the activity with me, just so that people get the idea.
I've put the link in the chat already, Judy. Are you happy with that? Is that I've done what you expect?
But we want the text of the instructions as well, so that when they're going to breakouts, they've got them in front of them.
Gotcha.
So the idea is you start off, you're working in pairs. One person's the chooser, one person is the asker, and you take it in turns to play both roles. You've got 4 minutes in each role. Step 1, the chooser, that's you, Anne, chooses a portable object that you can see, but I can't.
Yep. Okay.
The reason it needs to be portable is in a moment I'm going to ask you to show it to the camera, but not just yet.
That's fine. I can do that.
So, and you could tell me in one word what it is. The object is
a paperweight.
A paperweight. Okay, I'm going to draw the paperweight. And I'm going to hold my drawing up to the camera. And actually, everybody draw a paperweight. And quickly hold your paperweight up to the camera. Get a sense of what people are drawing. Excellent stuff. Good stuff. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. I'm going to ask Anne a couple of questions about the object. What kind of paperweight?
It's pretty.
Pretty. What kind of pretty?
Flowers.
Flowers. And is there anything else about flowers?
They're preserved.
Preserved. What kind of preserved?
In some kind of silicon. I don't know, some kind of plasticky see-through substrate. I don't know, material.
And what kind of flowers?
Little ones.
Little ones. Thank you. Now, everybody, amend your drawing or draw afresh.
Yeah, I might be better starting again, looking at.
So let everybody draw, and then we'll hold it up to the camera and compare and contrast. Oh, hello, Dan. Didn't see you there. Okay, we've got a few different ideas of what a paperweight could be like. Thank you. Now, Anne, let's see what it really looks like.
Sure. It's here. Can you see?
A bit closer, please. Hey,
Oh, hang on a minute. I'm just going to, there we go.
fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. So at this point in the activity, you've got a minute or so to compare your second drawing, well, both your first and your second drawing, to the real object and notice what you notice. Does that make sense as an activity?
Now, this is the bit where being present and camera on is going to be a massive advantage in the breakout. So if there's anybody who simply can't, let us know in chat now if you cannot get into the breakouts, because, and I don't know what we'll do. We'll panic and probably put you in one anyway and then fish you out later. And
Well, we'll do something in this plenary space during the breakouts, but
yeah,
if you can join the breakouts, please do. If you find yourself still on your own, so once everybody's gone to the breakouts, I will check if anybody's on their own and I'll combine people into pairs as far as I can. So fingers crossed. Let's see how many people manage to join and I'll sort it out. If you really can't join, stay here and we'll do something in the group. So you're going to have 8 minutes in these rooms, including the 60-second countdown. So do make sure you divide the time between you. Is everybody clear enough about the instructions to have a go?
Candice and Andrea S, I see you're not going to join the room. You'll be sent, and we'll have to bring you back, and we'll unmuck it. But the glory of Zoom means that you'll go and come back, and then we'll sort it out afterwards.
So don't worry, we will manage to sort it out. Opening the rooms now. Let's see what's going to happen.
We can carry on recording because we'll probably do some kind of work in here while they're. No, okay. People being auto-sent, Judy, or are they electing to go? They're being auto-sent.
They're electing to go. I'm just making sure.
Okay. So we've got a couple people. So Eddie and Volson, are you here? Just give us an indication in chat or elsewhere if you're actually in the meeting. Eddie's here. Cool. I'm assuming you can't move, which is also cool. We'll deal with it.
I've not seen. Oh, go
Sorry.
on. I've not seen an invitation to join a room, but
No,
I
you
can
haven't.
see.
Do you want to join a room?
I can do if there's somebody who you can pair me with.
Doesn't look like anyone's on their own, but I can put you into a room and you can observe whatever's happening.
Okay.
Yep.
Here we go. I'm going to put you in room 5 where there is a mystery person called Zoom user.
Okay,
I saw him earlier. I was going to say it's a funny name, but
thank you. I'll join there.
So Volson or Eddie and Andrea, certainly. Volson, we don't know if you're there. I don't know what we're going to do apart from if you're unable to show or talk. No. You can text us any questions.
So Candice, who said she couldn't join, has joined. So she may just be observing the group working.
We don't know. We'll find out.
Andrea, if you'd like to, I can add you
Actually,
to observe, as long as the group don't mind. Eddie, shall I add you to a group to observe?
It's going to be better than sitting here, to be honest.
Yeah, you're actually already in a group, but I'll move you because it will trigger the button to come up.
Yeah, so let's just get everybody. I can't tell if Volson's there or not, but we'll do the get everybody out and watching.
Yeah, Andrea, I'm just moving you to a room that's got people in it. There we go. So if you'd like to click the button, you should be able to join a room. Everybody's back because they were all very efficient and did it really, really quickly. Tom, did you get done both ways? Oh, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Yeah, we did it both ways.
Excellent.
Sorry, Michelle, I accidentally pushed the leave button, but we had 58 minutes, but we'd done the second half.
Excellent. So the rest of the group will be back in 21 seconds. But the meaning I make from the fact everybody's back already, or not everybody, but quite a lot of people are back already, is that you managed to efficiently divide the time, and people have done it both ways round, which is great, because that means that when we do the debrief, everybody's got something to talk about.
If they choose to, and that's cool.
If they choose to. So I'm super curious. What did you notice in that activity?
It worked well.
Tom, go ahead. And anyone else, please raise your virtual hand. So press the raise hand button. There we go.
And then it form an orderly queue. There we go.
Form an orderly queue. Let's go with Tom first. You said it worked.
What kind of work, Tom?
Well, that Michelle was remarkably good at reproducing what I said, almost picture perfect. I wasn't quite as good, but I was using my finger to draw things, so that's my excuse.
And when picture perfect, was that the first drawing or the second drawing?
Well,
First one.
Both, in stages.
Mm-hmm. So she got it right without having to to ask the questions.
I forget, but I must have been very clear.
I did add some bits in. There were more details on the second go. Yeah,
she was good.
More details on the second.
But it was close. It was close even the first time. Yeah.
Wow. Well done. Thank you. Robert, what did you notice?
Right, I thought I completely screwed it up because I can't draw at all. And through the conversations, I thought this is going to look rubbish. And it actually was a lot. I think it still was rubbish, but it was actually a lot closer than I thought. And so that really surprised me, that it didn't have to exist in my head for it to seemingly work. And the other one worked better, but as well.
Interesting. So it didn't need to exist in your head for it to work, for you to actually draw it, even though your drawing's rubbish, it still was somehow it.
Exactly.
Interesting. Thank you. Kirsty?
Yeah, the more questions that were asked, the more accurate the image became. And
so go on.
It just made me realise that you jump to conclusions unless you qualify, if that makes sense. So I had a half-eaten carrot, and by saying half-eaten, you could eat it from the side or eat the end off it, couldn't you? So you make, without qualifying it, you make an assumption.
So yeah, how many different ways can you half eat a carrot? I can think how I would jump to a conclusion about how I would, because I would eat it one way and somebody else could eat it completely differently. Thank you. That's one of the key points of this activity. And Emily, what did you discover?
So I found it quite difficult not to fully describe in detail the minute I was asked what kind. I had to be like, okay, probably might give the game away a little bit on that one.
Well, isn't it interesting? Some people will give you one-word answers and some people will talk and talk and talk when you ask them these questions. And some people will say, oh, well, it's a half-eaten carrot. How many kinds of half-eaten carrot can there be?
And who cares anyway? I don't know.
Steve, you have your hand raised.
I have, very definitely. So Michelle, I'm really interested in it got better, but I kind of got it right first time thing. Now, for me, that's a beautiful false friend because we sometimes get it right first time. Not you, Michelle. This is not a Michelle statement, just to be clear.
No, I get you. And I think the bit that was, I think there was a portion of disbelief because I was like, I've gone for something very, very basic. There could be 100 options, but actually the basic was right. So I think I think that's good to call it out, but I know I was lucky.
And of course, the calling out is pushing it a bit strong, but the thing I'm noticing is because we sometimes get it right, we overestimate our ability. Assumption can fast track us in a world of too much data into nirvana. It can fast track us into hell. and the pitch and the judgment of what kind of clarification you can do. But there's a lot more to it. We'll talk about shortly about what else there is to it. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we get the general idea that we make, as human beings, we automatically make assumptions, lots of assumptions. When people say anything to us, we jump to conclusions. By asking just a few questions about what they said, we get to find out a whole lot more detail. And these clean language questions, what kind of X and is there anything else about X, are really helpful to find out about things that we might assume. They're quite clever questions because of that X space where you use one of the other person's words. And that can be the first word they use, paperweight, or any of the words they use. It doesn't matter. There's some magic in using their words back to them, but this session is too short to get deeply into that magic. What we can say is that people in a whole bunch of different industries and different contexts are using these clean language questions to overcome this tendency to make assumptions and to get quickly and effectively to the real meaning that people have in their words. So, for example, I can share with you a video of an organizational development consultant called Bobby Petford, who used these questions to find out what was going on for a group when she was working with teams to overcome bullying in a particular organization. I've got bunches of these little videos on my YouTube channel, so do have a dig through there. And Steve.
Yeah, so that's there for reference. I've seen Dan Parsons on the call. If any of you know Dan, he's used Clean for a long time in his agile career. He's always there for. Oh, there you are, Dan. You're not in a car anymore. That's why I couldn't see
I've
you.
moved. I've moved now to another location very quickly.
And Dan's very great at sharing just reality stories of how it's worked. So if you don't know Dan, he's a good man to know. Now, context. Okay, so what Bobby experienced, you haven't seen the video yet, but it's about getting deeper issues of a team or organization, deeper more quickly. I don't know about you, but I often find that in the beginning of a conversation, I don't always know exactly what I mean. The idea grows and develops, not all the time, but sometimes. These are great questions at helping me work out what I think. And when they come from someone else and they're listening to what you say, they're not gap hunting, they're using your words, it feels really natural and comfortable. And it makes me feel more understood and respected. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. Because when you feel understood and respected, other things can happen much more easily. That we work in the health service quite a lot. It's different from you guys in many ways, but who's ever been to a doctor where they patted out the "How can I help you today?" which on the face of it, that seems like a nice way to start. But sometimes the words and the demeanor don't seem to match up. It's empathy 101, say this and everything will be fine. No, it's not. If you don't mean it, if you're a supercilious sod, then using the words doesn't make you empathetic. But then, no, I have to do this because I've got to establish a relationship. Well, do you know what we found? If you don't go through that dance where it's inauthentic, you actually just get into what kind of anything else about getting into making people feel understood, the rest follows. And it's better and it's quicker. And Judy spoke about, and this is why it kind of matters. You don't have to do any inauthentic empathy dances with people. I don't know if anybody does, but getting to make them feel understood and listened to. Just remember when someone else really got you, they really grokked what you were talking about and how good that felt. Well, do it for other people. You get better relationships, better data. They clear their own, the quality of your attention can determine the quality of another person's thought. That's my favorite Nancy Klein quotes. So anyway, when you ask these specific questions, people are asked directly for their own take, articulated in their own words, and their own words then reflected back to them. When we do this, they automatically feel listened to and understood. That's where the magic can come from. And Antarctica or something else, Judy? Where should we go?
I think that's there's another video of somebody who used this stuff on an Antarctic station to help the team communicate better. And he found that when he taught these clean language questions to participants on his one of the remotest working places on Earth, he reduced his churn. People were much less likely to say, I'm never going back again. Indeed, they were signing up for the next season because, of course, you can't stay on Antarctica all winter. So
whereas previous to that, they were getting argumentative and fractious and never going back. So it was a massive difference.
So it's just another video to have a look at if you get a minute. Here are also a couple of articles you might want to look at. And we're going to bounce straight into another activity, because what we've found is that us talking is nowhere near as effective as you talking to each other in small groups and then us coming back to find out what you talked about. So in groups of about 3, you're going to have about 5 minutes to talk about how might all of this be relevant to what you do. Whatever you do, I'm guessing it's some kind of agile in some kind of organization, but let's find out. How might all that we've been talking about so far and all that you learned in the previous activity be relevant to the work that you do? You're going to have about 5 minutes in the breakouts in groups of about 3.
By the way, this works at home too, wherever there are humans. Doesn't have to be at work. But this is a work call, so, you know.
And yes, of course, some people do need to drop for one thing and another. We appreciate that not everybody can be here all the time. Hopefully, there'll be enough people for at least a 2 in each breakout. Opening the rooms now.
We got to see Volson there. He's definitely here.
He's a real person. Yeah. Please me be wrong. I was just saying that everybody will keep talking until the end of their time this time. But I was wrong. However, Myla, Simon, are you able to?
It was the end of the time. That's why we said goodbye to each other. So we have 0, 0,
No,
0 on the
no,
timer.
No, there's a 60-second countdown. I think people just don't know there's a 60-second countdown, Judy. I thought that's what happened last time as well.
And so, Mila, are you generally in Teams rather than Zoom?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Zoom has this magic button where you can decide how long people get to count down.
It's less brutal than the sudden guillotine of
Teams.
That's true.
And we kind of wonder why everybody came back so quickly last time. It's like,
well, they're all very efficient. They've got their eye on the clock.
No,
fantastic.
No,
so that's everybody back now.
We've just had a Teams versus Zoom culture. I mean, it's assumptions, isn't it? There you go. There's an assumption. You know, one of the guys said, you know, our time was up, and it's like, no, you're in Zoom. You get an extra minute. You know, we get to choose, so it's not brutal. Masses of assumptions everywhere going on. Right, we're going to do a debrief. I'd love to know how might this be useful for you, and who would like to be the facilitator's friend by getting us started? Thank you, Emily.
So I was saying I feel like a bit of an intruder because I don't actually work in Agile, but for me, it's I currently work in a world where we are the order takers. So we want this, and that's the end of that conversation. So I would like to be able to say, what kind of this would you like? And can you tell me more about this? And just those tools to deeper dive, because we deliver on the order and it all falls over 6 weeks later because actually it wasn't what they were looking for at all.
Oh, okay. And it's so simple. I mean, what I love about these questions is there's somebody, who was it? Was it Carl Scotland? No, it reduces the cognitive load. Judy, you'll know the answer to that. That lovely, it reduces the cognitive load statement. And what we mean by that is just those 2 questions, just use them. and you don't have to think about it. You just use those questions and they feel understood and you get more clarity. Who was that? Who should we honour for that?
It was the late Martin Burns, and unfortunately the article in which he made this statement is no longer online, but Martin Burns of Lean Agile Scotland was the one who was really pointing out that the clean language questions reduce your cognitive load in finding out information.
Thank you. Now, Robert, what have you got for us?
Just the conquering fear. If we make it okay to ask questions, you can say, you know, I gave the example of I work with a lot of infrastructure, which means we're broken up into millions of different silos, and nobody really knows what's going on. So, and then people are afraid to ask questions because questions often is seen as a sign of, let's say, incompetence in the wrong kind of culture. And we want to encourage this. And what questions do we answer? Well, if someone's talking about networks, you can say, well, what kind of network? And without giving the game away, you begin to learn and relieve the, I think I used the reference of the hostage of information is released, and then you can go forwards together. And otherwise it just goes lose-lose very, very, very quickly. And I don't have time for lose-lose. Nobody's got time for lose-lose. Some people don't realize it though. But when you know that, then it really puts you on a very empathetic approach to and curious discovering stuff.
Curious. And I think having curiosity, respect and curiosity in your tone and your demeanor, because we know we can ask the same question in different ways and it produces a very different impact on the recipient. So that curiosity and respect and that gentleness as part of it is kind of significant. So I'm going to take my life in my hands, and it's an unfamiliar name, but I'm going to say you and hope I've got it almost right.
It's Yuju. It's almost
Yuju,
right.
okay. Thank you, Yuju.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it could be useful to clarify different terminology between teams. Some teams could use a lot of acronyms, and a new member comes in or a new coach comes in and it's like, what kind of X is that? Or even I work in a company that have like really highly specialized people, and even within specialization, they can say the same word and it means different things. And we have meetings that go around in circles and circles. They say, oh, we actually it wasn't the same thing we were talking about this whole time. So I feel like, you know, what kind of X could be a good place to kind of have this conversation. We also said as a coach, we could also offer this as a tool to help team be more comfortable asking clarifying question. I've often observed, even when I encourage team members to ask clarified question, they end up asking more leading questions. So like offering them as a tool, like it kind of gives them a good place to start. So those were kind of the things we talked about.
There's a lot in there, Eugene. Do you know there's a true story of a friend of ours in Holland, Roland, who actually did what you described. He worked in a bank that operated between I think Belgium and the Netherlands, I'm pretty sure, where the same word meant different things. And in a merger, he genuinely discovered, using clean language, the different meanings of those two words, and it saved them from millions of euros worth of stuff up. And it's a true story, and it's the same word, because we've got the curse of knowledge. And no matter how adamantly you say, I know we're all different, I know we know different stuff, we still all act as if others know what we know. We just do. And that the curse of knowledge and assumed knowledge is this can unpick it, and it's amazing for that. Now, Ryan, we have an admired person in common, Ryan. So David Marquet, I see on your LinkedIn that you're connected. We had the fortune of meeting David just pre-COVID, because he's quite influenced by some of Judy's work, and we had some really enriching conversations. So what have you got for us?
I was just going to say, I know that in my context, it's even asking these types of clarity questions have helped to de-escalate. When someone's coming with an urgent matter, oh, everything's broken, nothing's working, right? You're like, well, hold on.
What kind of
do you mean? What are you seeing, right? And it immediately takes that emotional level way down, and they start joining you in the problem solving rather than declaring there's a problem, go fix it.
And doing it at ever greater volume, the more frustrated
Right.
get,
Right.
for example. Thank you. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Have you been exposed to clean language before, Ryan? Is it familiar? You'll have seen references to it subtly within David's work.
A little bit, but just I guess not by name. So that was one of the reasons I joined today, was just that I was curious about what that truly meant. So I'm learning a lot, but I'm also realizing that I've used some similar strategies and approaches, while whatever its label or name. I feel like the thinking process has been part of my work.
And we want to acknowledge and build on where people come from. It's not like, hey, dimwits, you never knew this. Well, actually, you probably did in some different ways. We'll build on that. Now, clarity questions is interesting because in the Netherlands, somewhat controversially, they stopped calling it clean language, which, if we're honest, it's a pretty crabby name. The number of people who say, oh, is it not about swearing? It's like, oh, really? Yeah. And they call it clarifying questions. Have I got that right, Judy? And it's a bit controversial because there's a lot more to it than that. That's a bit reductive. Yes, it's in there, but there's a lot more to it. And I'd be curious to know if anybody's picked up any of the other stuff that might be useful for them. Oh, and by the way, Yuju, I meant to say earlier, when you are modeling curiosity, by modeling, I mean demonstrating, enacting, role modeling, curiosity, and helping people get clarity and perhaps feedback. As an agile coach, you're kind of demonstrating behaviors you want other people to use. And that's just part of that reinforcing loop. Sorry, I meant to say that earlier to thank you for your contribution. Okay.
We should perhaps say a word or two about so the name clean language comes from the guy who invented it, who is the late David Grove, and the clean language questions have been translated into lots and lots of other languages. The book that I co-authored has been translated into German, Japanese, and Russian. There's a large clean language community in France, a large clean language community in the Netherlands. Good number of people in Belgium as well as across the English-speaking world. David Grove himself was a New Zealander who spent a lot of his life in America, as well as the UK and France. So there are lots and lots of connections to be made. And I suppose by saying that, I'm saying clean language is not just something that Steve and I have come up with out of the top of our heads. It's been around now for 30 years, something like that, maybe a bit longer. And it's increasingly being used in workplaces, in business contexts, and in a very casual way. It's just help people clarify what's going on, but it does have further depths, which if you start to read up on it, you'll discover aspects of it in relation to metaphor, which can be super interesting, but it's bigger than we're going to have time to go into today.
And behind the questions is what we call clean stance, which is a philosophical piece about the nature of how you bring yourself to those conversations in terms of the curiosity, the respect, and all the other parts that you bring to it. It's not just the what, it's the attitude and the how that goes with it that makes a difference.
So we've got a few minutes for your questions. What would you like to know that we haven't already covered?
May I?
Mike,
very quickly?
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, in my group, I've shared that one of the interesting and unexpected positives of adopting clean questions was that personally, and I checked with others as well, we felt we were preventing us from self-sabotaging when we tried to come up with the right question and phrasing and overcomplicating things. And this was simply our way to bring our bias into the question because we were expecting a specific answer. And in this way, we're not serving the person and not giving them the freedom and the space to come up with their answer. So as coaches, obviously, we are all aware of the bias and stuff, but clean language helps me to clean to sweep, to remove, that layer of unnecessary complexity that at the end of the day is self-sabotaging my effort. So have you witnessed this? Thanks for nodding, but do you have any other examples? Someone else got this realization, or it's just myself?
No, I think it's a relatively common observation from this kind of activity that when people, if you were to get people to write down the questions they would have asked and then get them to use the clean language questions, you'll get some people who are in absolute contortions trying to work out how to ask what they would have asked because they can't. Because they wanted to ask a question which was much more about themselves than about finding out from the other person. So it really is one of the, it's part of that cognitive load thing.
And
you
more.
Can't, you almost can't plant your assumptions into the question if you stick to the clean questions.
Here's an open secret. When you work this way, I won't say everything changes because I don't know any of you. I know Dan a bit, but you're not people I know and have worked with. So I cannot say whether it will change you because I don't know how you currently work. But it worked for a lot of people when they start using this more. The inevitability of having to listen better and not throw in assumptions all the time is revolutionary.
Now, there's a question in the chat, which is quite an interesting question, very interesting question, in fact, from Emily.
I don't know how quickly you're going to do that, but
yeah,
it's good.
Can you share a bit about giving feedback using clean language? Okay, so here's the thing. David Grove, the person who created clean language, was not in the business of giving feedback. He was in the business of finding out what was going on inside the other person's head. That was his purpose in creating the clean language questions. Other people who've developed on his work, notably Caitlin Walker, have created various ways of thinking about feedback from a clean frame of mind. Now, one of the things about giving feedback from a clean frame of mind is thinking, my response to whatever's happened is very much my response. And in Caitlin's model, she likes to separate out what did I see and hear from the meaning I made from that, and then the impact that had.
The fantasy I invented from that is how I sometimes think of it.
So what I observe is that Anne is looking down and to the right. The meaning I make from that is that she's having a terrible depressive incident because of course we've completely blown it and made a rubbish event of her group. And the impact on me is, of course, I'm now traumatized by the whole thing. Or I can go, oh, what I observe is that Anne is looking down and to the right. The meaning I make from that is that she's got a piece of paper with the announcements on it, and she wants to make sure that she's going to give the information to the group in the right way. And the impact on me is to check the clock and make sure I'm allowing a minute for that. So you see how the same observation can have two completely different meanings and two completely different impacts. So when Caitlin Walker thinks about clean feedback, that's how she does it. But it is separate from David Grove's work, which was just much more about finding out what the world looks like from inside the other person's eyes.
Thank you.
Steve, you're going to have to be lightning quick because Anne needs to do the announcements.
Oh, heck. I'll have to be lightning
Tell you what,
quick.
we can stay on after the official end, but the announcements can't happen after the official end.
Oh, you thought I was. Oh, the meaning I make from that is you thought I had lots to say and I couldn't keep my gob shut. Okay. Yeah, none taken. Anne, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, thank you so much for a fantastic session. And yeah, you've given us the opportunity to experiment with a couple of very simple questions and yeah, to explore as a group how, yeah, the impact of those and yeah, how we might take those forward and share examples of, yeah, how we can see them working or have seen them working. And I've loved those examples, just the richness of them and the diversity of them is super interesting. And yeah, somebody just mentioned earlier how they're not from the world of agile, they're from a different space, and we've had people here from the NHS and other places, and I think that is absolutely fantastic that we can come to spaces like this and share our perspectives, but yeah, have I guess a commonality of purpose and interest in this area. So thank you, Judy and Steve, for a super session, and thank you to everyone who has participated and made it what it has been. Yeah, you've given us lots to think about and lots of things to go and follow up on as well. So super good. By way of announcements, the Sooner Safer Happier EMEA community, our next meetup will be on Tuesday, the 11th of June, when we'll have Nigel Mahoney of Cognizant joining us. He was briefly on the call earlier, and I just had a quick flick through. I think he's possibly had to duck away, but he'll be with us talking about his journey through the world of organizational change using a couple of case studies, and he'll be talking about how he's combined the principles of better value, Sooner Safer Happier with Simon Powers of AWS's enterprise change pattern. So please join us in June.
I've just been throwing commercial messages into the chat. Hire us, we're brilliant. No, okay. It's time, everybody. Thank you very much. You've given us the most valuable thing you can. You've given us your time and your attention, and we're grateful and humbled by that. We can stay for any questions you have for as long as it's interesting. But dinner is in the pot. And those who need to move on, thank you for being here.
Thanks very much, everybody. See you again soon.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
It's the Ask Us Anything.
Any last questions?
I have a question, and I will just say I can stick around for maybe 5 minutes, and then I'm going to have to go because I'm going out this evening. Apologies. Food, yes, food and pub quiz. But yeah, my question is, you shared 2 questions, and I'm interested to know whether there are other questions as well.
There are about 12 questions. It depends. I say about because it depends whether you think of a particular one or two of them are similar, and you could say they're 2 versions of the same question, but about 12 basic clean language questions. Those 2 that we shared are nicknamed the Lazy Jedi questions because they carry the force, and there is people who've done experiments with looking at transcripts, how many times they use which questions, reckon that they use those 2 85% of the time.
Thank you.
There's more richness, but yeah, that'll get you a long way.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the stance that sits behind it. You can be pretty unclean by being clean if you bring a poor attitude to the whole thing.
I particularly like the bit where you talk about modeling. If you model curiosity, then that's something you're going to demonstrate as sort of a real good bit of leadership influence and credibility, which is going to happen as a result of assuming you're doing it in the best interest. I'm always wondering what the goal is to the question, so that you can get to it, so you know when you've got to it. That might not be for here. That's just something that's going up in my mind.
I think it works at different levels, Robert. I can answer that because for me, it's the goal for me is creating the environment in which understanding and clarity is most likely to be elicited, demonstrated, and achieved. People are respected and listened to, and it becomes a fundamental foundation for the quality. Judy and I, Conversaurus, what our purpose in life is to improve the quality of understanding in human discourse. And if you look at the potential applications of that, we work a lot in the health service. My background is in international humanitarian support. Improving the quality of understanding in human discourse is a pretty noble thing. And that, for me, is what it's all about.
But
now,
lots of other people can have lots of other purposes.
Yes, of course.
So there's no one purpose for these questions. So when David Grove was asking the questions, he was thinking that they would help people to heal their psyches, resolve all their traumas and all of that, because he was doing it in psychotherapy. Different people have different purposes.
Agreed. And this is the separation of the tool from the purpose in some ways. Can't just use the tool. You could actually. I use the tool all the time in my daily life. Yeah. Whenever I'm slightly too lazy to pay attention, or whenever I just don't know, I say what kind of, and I get some information for free. It's great. Although I do know when other people use it as well, because your ears are open for it.
Hold it lightly is what I think. In terms of if you do it with the metaphorical white coat and spectacles, like you're inspecting somebody, it'll have a very different impact from doing it with gentle and respectful curiosity and helping them to understand themselves better, which is a really big deal within this.
Yeah.
And you to understand them better, or purely practical, to just be able to understand each other.
I'll say.
Benny, did you have a question?
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Any more questions?
Not quite. Just listening to other points. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. We've got to cook our tea too, so we're going to call it there. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks
thank you
very
so
much.
Super session.
It's been fun. I'll send you the link probably tomorrow. There's no rush, is there? I'll do it tomorrow morning.
No, not at all. No, tomorrow is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you for taking a chance on us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for a fantastic session.
I couldn't resist it. Couldn't resist. There we go.
Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.